Living with gratitude brings contentment, serenity, and divine closeness. It is the quiet state of a heart that has learned to stop chasing and start noticing, to stop complaining and start appreciating. Gratitude is not just a passing feeling, it is a way of life. It is a posture of the soul that sees everything, even the smallest moments, as gifts from the most merciful. When you live with gratitude, you begin to experience a peace that no material success or worldly achievement can ever provide. It is the kind of peace that settles deep within, a stillness that whispers, I have enough because I have Allah. See, contentment, or etkana'af, is one of the greatest fruits of gratitude. It frees you from the endless cycle of wanting more and more and more. The world constantly teaches us that happiness lies in accumulation, in having the next thing, reaching the next moan, owning what others have. But gratitude teaches the opposite truth. Happiness is not found in having more, but in appreciating more. When your heart is grateful, it stops running after illusions. It no longer ties peace to external things, because it realizes that true wealth lies in the heart. A single sip of water, when received with gratitude, can feel richer than a feast. A small home filled with remembrance can feel grander than a palace without peace. Gratitude transforms what you have into enough, and that realization is where true contentment begins. Living with gratitude also brings serenity, a calmness that doesn't depend on circumstances. When you're grateful, you stop fighting life and start flowing with it. You begin to accept what comes and what goes, because you trust that both carry divine wisdom. The grateful heart is not immune to pain, but it is protected from despair. It can face loss and still see mercy, face hardship, and still feel hope. Gratitude grounds you in the present, keeping you from being consumed by the past or anxious about the future. It teaches you to live this moment fully, because you recognize that this moment, right here, right now, is a gift from Allah. The serenity comes when the heart stops resisting what X is and starts trusting the one who decrees it. Gratitude softens the heart and brings it closer to its creator. Every time you say, Alhamdulillah, you are not only acknowledging a blessing, you are acknowledging the one who gave it. Each act of thankfulness becomes a form of remembrance, a silent dhikr that draws you nearer to Allah. Gratitude turns everyday moments into acts of worship. The meal you eat becomes an opportunity to praise Him. The sunrise you witness becomes a reminder of His renewal. The air you breathe becomes a sign of His mercy sustaining you, moment after moment. The more you thank, the more aware you become of His presence in every detail of your life. And that awareness, that nearness, is the essence of spiritual intimacy. When you live in gratitude, your heart becomes a home for peace. You no longer measure your worth by how much you have or how far you've gone. You begin to live from a place of sufficiency rather than scarcity. Gratitude clears away envy, anxiety, and restlessness, replacing them with calm acceptance. It teaches you to trust that what's written for you will always find its way to you, and that whatever doesn't was never meant to bring you peace anyway. A grateful heart is free because it is no longer enslaved to comparison or constant craving. It finds joy in simplicity and beauty in imperfection because it knows that everything, even the seemingly ordinary, is infused with divine purpose. Gratitude is also a bridge. It connects your outer life to your inner faith. It transforms how you see yourself and how you see Allah. Instead of viewing Him only through the lens of fear or need, you begin to see Him through the lens of love and appreciation. You start to realize how continuously He provides, in ways you can see and in countless ways you can't. You begin to feel His care in the smallest details, the way your heart finds calm in prayer, the way a kind word reaches you at the perfect time, the way relief comes after hardship. Gratitude opens your heart to these signs until you can no longer doubt that His mercy is everywhere. And as your gratitude deepens, So does your closeness to him. You begin to feel that every blessing is a conversation between you and your Creator. Every gift an invitation to remember him more. You start to live with a kind of humility that says, nothing I have is mine. It's all from you. That awareness transforms not only how you worship, but how you walk through life. You move with gentleness, with patience, with peace, because you know that everything comes from a place of divine love. In the end, living with gratitude is not about pretending life is perfect. It's about recognizing that even in its imperfection, there is beauty, mercy, and meaning. It's about knowing that every breath, every heartbeat, every sunrise is a gift, and that every difficulty carries wisdom. When you live with gratitude, contentment replaces craving, serenity replaces chaos, and Allah replaces everything you once thought you needed. It is then that you realize you were never lacking. Your blessings were simply waiting to be seen. And once your heart learns to see them, you will live in peace, wrapped in the sweetness of divine closeness. True peace comes from trusting the one who controls what you cannot. As long as you try to hold the universe in your hands, your heart will tremble with fear. As long as you believe that everything depends on your power, your plans, and your strength, you will feel exhausted, anxious, and overwhelmed. There are too many moving parts, too many unknowns, too many outcomes you will never be able to shape. Life was not designed to be fully in your control. It was designed to remind you again and again that there is a higher power lovingly managing what you cannot. And when the heart finally understands this, when it finally surrenders the illusion of control, peace settles in like a soft dawn after a long night. Trust is not blindness. Trust is clarity. It is seeing your limits and knowing that beyond them exists a Lord who has no limits. It is understanding that your vision is short, but His wisdom is endless. It is embracing the reality that while you walk through life with uncertainty, He guides your steps with perfection. Every delay, every redirection, every closed door, every hardship, none of it slips outside His knowledge. Trusting Him means knowing that nothing is random and nothing is wasted. What feels like a loss to you may be a protection. What feels like a delay may be a preparation. What feels like an unanswered prayer may be an answer in disguise. The heart becomes tired when it carries what it was never meant to carry. You worry about the future, but the future is not in your hands. You stress over outcomes, but outcomes belong to His decree. You fear what's coming, yet He already knows what will come and has written it with divine precision. Peace begins the moment you place what overwhelms you into His care. Peace grows when you stop asking, how will I control this? And start saying, I trust the one who controls it all. Peace stays when you stop fighting what God is orchestrating and start flowing with His wisdom. There is a stillness that only trust can give, a stillness that cannot be shaken by circumstances. You may still feel pain, but the panic fades. You may still face storms, but the fear lessens. You may still walk through darkness, but you no longer walk alone. Trusting Him transforms hardship from a threat into a vehicle of growth. It transforms the unknown from something terrifying into something sacred. It transforms waiting from agony into worship. When you trust Him, you stop needing to know what will happen next because you are secure in knowing who is in charge of it. Human control is fragile. It breaks easily. Divine control is absolute. It never fails. And the heart that places its trust in the Almighty becomes anchored, steady, unshaken, even when everything around it feels unstable. This is the peace that comes not from the world, but from the one who created the world. It is the peace that whispers, even if I don't understand the path, I trust the planner. It is the peace that says, even if I don't see the wisdom now, I know it will unfold. It is the peace that strengthens you when life becomes heavy and comforts you when days feel so. Every time you surrender your worries to Him, you reclaim a piece of your peace. Every time you trust His timing, His decisions, His protection, you lighten the load on your heart. You begin to live with the quiet confidence that you are guided, watched over. And this trust does not remove challenges from your life. It removes the fear of facing them alone. It teaches your heart to breathe even in chaos, to hope even in darkness, and to rest even in uncertainty. This is the secret of true peace, placing your hand in His, placing your life in His care, and walking through this world with the certainty that whatever is beyond your control is never beyond His. Happiness begins when the heart stops resisting hardship and starts seeking meaning within it. As long as we stand in front of our struggles like a wall, pushing against them, denying them, fighting them, we exhaust our soul. Hardship was never meant to be an enemy. It was meant to be a mirror that shows us who we are, what we hold inside, what we depend on, and what we need to let go of. Pain becomes heavier when we believe it has no purpose. But the moment the heart shifts from asking, "Why is this happening to me?" to "What is this meant to teach me?" a doorway opens. Suddenly, the burden becomes a lickly, the storm becomes a teacher, and the darkness begins to show traces of hidden light. Every hardship that enters your life enters with permission, wisdom, and timing. It is not random, even if it feels chaotic. When you resist, your heart becomes tight, your thoughts become loud, and your soul becomes restless. But when you allow yourself to breathe, to accept, to sit gently with what hurts, a quiet transformation begins. You start to see that hardships carve out spaces inside you, spaces that later get filled with strength, compassion, and depth. If you had never been broken, how would you learn to rise? If you had never been disappointed, how would you learn to detach from what isn't meant for you? If you had never lost, how would you learn to appreciate what stews? Meaning gives suffering direction. Without meaning, hardship feels like punishment. But with meaning, hardship becomes cultivation. Just as the earth must be broken to allow a seed to grow, the heart sometimes cracks so new wisdom, new faith, and new resilience can enter. Instead of resisting the breaking, soften into it. Ask yourself, what is this moment trying to awaken in me? What part of my soul is being shaped? What lesson is being whispered beneath this pain? These questions don't remove hardship, but they dignify it. They turn suffering into growth, and growth into a quiet form of happiness, an inner contentment that doesn't depend on what is happening outside. When the heart stops resisting hardship, it stops placing happiness on pause. So many people wait for life to become easy before they allow themselves to feel peace. But peace is not something you wait for. It's something you create through acceptance, trust, and perspective. Happiness is not found after the storm. It's found after, within the storm. When you stand with a heart that believes there is wisdom in the winds and mercy in the rain. You don't have to enjoy the hardship, but you can choose not to let it shrink your soul. You can choose to let it refine you instead of define you. Meaning becomes the lantern that guides you through hard seasons. It reminds you that you are not stuck, you are being shaped. It reminds you that this moment is not the end of your story, but a chapter that will one day make sense. It reminds you that even when life feels heavy, you are being carried toward a stronger, wiser, more grounded version of yourself. And in that realization, a soft smile returns, not because everything is perfect, but because you understand that everything has purpose. This is the happiness that hardship cannot still, the happiness born from surrender, from trust, from seeing life with a deeper lens. When the heart stops resisting and starts seeking meaning, it discovers peace in places where others only see pain. It discovers strength in moments where others feel shattered. It discovers that even in the hardest seasons, the soul can still find a reason to breathe, to rise, and to hope again. Gratitude transforms difficult moments into spiritual elevation. It takes the same situation, the same pain, the same confusion, and shifts the heart into a state where it begins to rise instead of collapse. Gratitude doesn't mean you deny the hardship or pretend that everything is easy. It simply means you choose to look for the mercy hidden beneath the struggle. And the moment you do that, your heart begins to change. You start noticing that even in pain, you are being guided. Even in loss, you are being replaced with something better. Even in moments that feel empty, there is a quiet blessing shaping you from within. Gratitude opens your eyes to the signs you missed while drowning in complaints. It turns the heart from a place of heaviness into a place of receptivity, receptive to divine wisdom, divine compassion, and divine strength. When life becomes difficult, the natural response is to focus on everything that is missing, broken, or uncertain. But gratitude gently redirects your gaze. It reminds you of what still remains, what still protects you, what still gives you hope. You may be going through something painful, but you still have breath. You may feel misunderstood, but you are still guided. You may feel lost, but you are still under the care of the one who never abandons his servant. Gratitude does not erase the hardship, but it prevents the hardship from erasing you. There is a special kind of growth that comes when you say a first Alhamdulillah, even with tears in your eyes. It is in those moments that your gratitude becomes worship. It becomes a declaration that your faith is not dependent on comfort, but on conviction. It becomes a testimony that your heart sees beyond the surface of the event into the deeper wisdom behind it. This is why the hardest moments often lead to the greatest spiritual elevation, because they push you to a place where gratitude becomes an act of courage, not convenience. Gratitude turns you away from the illusion that happiness comes from external ease. It teaches you that happiness is a state of the heart, and a grateful heart is one that can find light even in the dimmest blue. When you practice gratitude during hardship, you are telling your soul, there is still goodness here. Look again. You begin to notice how hardship strips away arrogance, how it softens your edges, how it humbles you, how it brings you closer to your Creator, how it teaches you to appreciate what you once took for granted. Every moment of gratitude becomes a step upward, an elevation of your spiritual rank. It changes how you walk through pain. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You begin to ask, what is this teaching me? What strength is being grown inside me? What blessing will come because of this? Gratitude plants meaning inside suffering, and meaning gives you the strength to endure even the smallest acts of gratitude. Thanking God for a breath, for a moment of quiet, for a single comforting word, create ripples of peace inside you. They slowly purify the heart from bitterness, resentment, and fear. They make room for hope to return. They allow healing to begin. Gratitude rebuilds the inner world even when the outer world feels like it's falling apart. This is why gratitude is not just a feeling, it is a spiritual state. It is the ability to recognize divine mercy in forms that don't look like mercy at first. It is the ability to trust that the one who gives and takes knows exactly what the soul needs to grow. And when you embrace gratitude, you rise, not because the hardship disappears, because your heart becomes stronger than the hardship itself. Gratitude becomes a ladder, one that lifts you from despair to understanding, from heaviness to hope, and from hardship to spiritual elevation. Patience is not passive, it is powerful protection in seasons of pain. Many people misunderstand patience as simply waiting or venturing hardship in silence. But true patience is far more active, intentional, and transformative. It is an inner strength, a spiritual shield that guards your heart from breaking under the weight of life's challenges. Patience is the ability to breathe when everything feels tight around you, to stay grounded when emotions try to pull you into despair, and to trust the unfolding of a plan much greater than your own understanding. It is not weakness. It is a profound form of strength that grows only in the presence of difficulty. When life becomes heavy, impatience whispers that everything is falling apart. It tells you that you are alone, forgotten, or being punished. But patience counters that voice with truth. It says, this moment is not the end. Hold on. Something is being prepared for you. Patience protects your heart from the kind of hopelessness that makes you give up too early. It holds you steady until clarity arrives, until healing unfolds, until the wisdom behind your hardship begins to reveal. This is why patience is a form of spiritual protection. Because without it, pain becomes overwhelming. With it, pain becomes purposeful. Patience is the strength to keep your faith alive when your circumstances give you reasons to doubt. It is the quiet refusal to let fear dictate your decisions. It is choosing not to collapse under pressure, but to stand firmly in the belief that your Creator has not brought you to this moment except to teach you, elevate you, or protect you from something unseen. Patience is not inaction. It is the conscious act of surrendering to divine timing, of trusting that every delay carries a hidden mercy, every detour holds a secret blessing, and every closed door is shielding you from what was never meant for you. Pain often pushes you to react without thinking, to rush, to force outcomes, to run from discomfort. But patience teaches you to pause. And in that pause, you gain clarity. You learn to respond instead of react. You learn to listen to your heart instead of your fears. You learn to let things unfold without destroying yourself trying to control what is outside of your reach. That pause is where emotional maturity grows. It is where wisdom is formed. It is where strength is shaped. Patience is also compassion toward yourself. It is recognizing that healing takes time, that growth requires discomfort, and that nothing meaningful happens overnight. You do not have to have everything figured out right now. You do not have to pretend to be strong every minute. Patience allows you to take the journey step by step, breath by breath, without crushing yourself under impossible expectations. It gives you space to grieve, space to reflect, space to rebuild. And in the deepest moments of pain, patience becomes a guardian of your heart. It shields you from making decisions you will regret, from losing yourself in anger, from drowning in grief. It stands between you and the darkness that tries to swallow you. It holds your hand and whispers, "This is temporary. Better days are coming. Pause." In this way, patience is not passive. It is active protection. It is the armor you wear when life tests you. With patience, even the most painful seasons become bearable. You begin to see that the storm you are facing is not here to destroy you, but to strengthen your roots. You begin to understand that every hardship carries within it a seed of wisdom that can only grow if you give it time. You begin to realize that patience is not about waiting for life to get easier. It is about becoming a person who remains steady no matter how difficult life becomes. And when you embrace patience, you rise above the panic, the fear, the confusion. You walk with quiet confidence, knowing that the one who guides your journey never leaves you alone in your struggles. You understand that patience is not merely enduring the storm, it is learning how to find peace within it. Letting go of control opens the door to divine comfort and clarity. As human beings, we cling to the idea that if we can just manage every detail, predict every outcome, and fix every problem, life will finally make sense. But the truth is, the more we try to hold tightly to everything, the more fragmented our hearts become. Control is an illusion that exhausts the soul. It keeps you in a constant state of fear. Fear of losing what you love, fear of facing the unknown, fear of things not going the way you imagined. Yet life was never meant to be lived with clenched fists. It was meant to be lived with open hands, open heart, and open trust in the one who sees what you cannot. Letting go is not about giving up. It is about giving setups over. It is the moment you tell your heart, I do not have to carry this alone. When you release what is too heavy, you make space for divine comfort to enter. You make room for peace to replace panic. You allow the Creator to guide what you were trying to force. Letting go is an act of courage. It is admitting that your strength has limits, but His does not. It is realizing that your plans are small compared to the beauty of what He has planned for you. It is choosing trust over truth, surrender over struggle. Many times, the clarity you seek is not missing. It is simply blocked by your need to control everything. When your mind is chasing scenarios, trying to fix what is out of your hands, or replaying what you cannot change, you cannot hear the quiet guidance being sent to you. You cannot see the signs placed in your path. Control creates noise. Surrender creates space. When you let go, that space fills with clarity. Clarity about what truly matters, clarity about what is meant for you, clarity about your next step, clarity about where peace actually resides. Letting go also reveals the truth of your heart. Often, we hold on to things not because they are good for us, but because we fear life without them. We cling to people who hurt us, situations that drain us, expectations that break us, simply because letting go feels unknown. But the unknown is not empty. It is filled with God's protection, His timing, His wisdom. When you finally loosen your grip, you begin to see how many burdens you were carrying that were never yours to hold. You realize that the pain was not in letting go. The pain was in holding on too tightly for too long. And then something unexpected happens. Comfort arrives. In the quiet after surrender, your heart feels lighter. Your mind stops racing. Your soul feels held. Divine comfort enters not when you have everything under control, but when you stop pretending that you do. It is in that moment that you feel a wave of peace that cannot be explained, only experienced. A peace that whispers, of you are not alone. You are guided. You are protected. That comfort is a gift given only to the heart brave enough to release its fears into the hands of the one who created it. Clarity also follows surrender. You begin to understand why certain things didn't work out, why certain doors closed, why certain people left, why certain prayers took time. What once felt confusing begins to make sense. What once felt like loss begins to feel like mercy. What once felt like disappointment becomes a redirection. This clarity doesn't always come immediately. Sometimes it arrives gently over time, but it always arrives for the heart that lets go and trusts. Letting go of control is not a one-time action. It is a daily practice. A practice of reminding yourself this year I can do my part, but the outcome is not mine. I can try, but I cannot force. I can hope, but I cannot decree. I can pray, but I cannot control. This mindset doesn't weaken you, it strengthens you. It frees you from the crushing pressure of trying to manage what only God can manage. And in that freedom, you rise. You rise with more clarity, more faith, more wisdom, and more peace. Letting go does not take away your power. It reveals where your true power comes from. It opens your heart to the comfort that only the divine can give, and given the clarity that only surrender can bring, happiness grows when your hope is rooted in the Almighty, not in temporary circumstances. The world around you is constantly changing. People come and go, seasons shift, plans collapse, dreams evolve, and situations you once relied on can disappear overnight. If your happiness depends on these outer conditions, it will rise and fall with every wave of life. But when your hope is planted in something eternal, unchanging, and infinitely merciful, it becomes steady. It becomes resilient. It becomes a source of light that no storm can extinguish. Hope rooted in the Almighty is a hope that does not break under pressure, does not fade in darkness, and does not crumble when the world feels uncertain. It is the kind of hope that grows stronger precisely when life gets harder. Circumstances are fragile. They are not designed to hold the weight of your happiness. If you place your heart in the hands of people, you will be disappointed. If you place your peace in the success of your plans, you will be shaken. If you place your worth in what the world gives or takes, you will remain unsettled. But when your hope is with the one who never changes, your heart gains a stability that life cannot threaten. You begin to move through the world with a different kind of confidence. A confidence not built on what you can see, but on what you trust. And that trust becomes your shelter in moments of loss, your strength in moments of fear, and your comfort in moments of uncertainty. Hope rooted in the Almighty changes how you interpret hardship. Instead of seeing difficulty as a sign that you are forgotten, you begin to see it as a sign that you are being shaped. Instead of assuming that delays are rejections, you understand that they are often protections. Instead of believing that unanswered prayers are signs of neglect, you start realizing that they are signs of divine wisdom. Your heart softens. Your perspective deepens. Your faith becomes deepens. And in that transformation, happiness quietly blooms, even in places where sadness once lived. This kind of hope teaches you to look beyond the surface of the moment. You see that what is taken from you might be making room for something better. You see that what hurts you might be healing you in ways you cannot yet understand. You see that the path you didn't want might be the very path that leads you to what your soul has been longing for. And because your hope is rooted in the one who knows you, loves you, and plans for you, you no longer feel threatened. You begin to trust that every chapter has a reason, every delay has a timing, and every test has a purpose. Happiness grows when the heart learns to detach from outcomes. When you do your best but release your expectations. When you work hard but leave the results in His hands. When you pray deeply but accept that the answer may not look the way you imagined. This spiritual detachment frees you from the pressure of controlling everything. You stop tying your happiness to whether life moves according to your plan. Instead, you begin to find happiness in knowing that you are guided, even when the guidance leads you through unfamiliar terrain. A heart rooted in divine hope is a heart at peace. It does not panic when things fall apart because it knows the one who can rebuild in ways more beautiful than before. It does not crumble when good days end because it knows the one who can bring better days in His timing. It does not cling desperately to temporary things because it trusts in the eternal source of comfort and provision. And slowly, almost quietly, this hope becomes a wellspring of happiness. Not a fleeting happiness tied to moments, but an inner happiness tied to faith. A happiness that stays with you as you walk through uncertainty. A happiness that grows even in hardship. A happiness that lights your path when everything else feels dark. This is the kind of happiness that cannot be shaken, because its roots are planted in the Almighty, the one who never fails, never forgets, and never leaves a heart that places its hope in Him.